thought, well, maybe AI can create a nice cross section or an orthographic sketch, with a top view, a side view, and it gives you a sort of the look of it, but it's all completely wrong. It is an orthographic text, but it makes absolutely no sense at all.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 3 of the Starboat Podcast. I'm here with my guest, Seb Schneiders. Welcome.
Right?
Am I pronouncing your
Schneiders.
Yeah, I thought, I was preparing and I was like, I know you for years, but I have no idea how to pronounce your last name. So it's Seb Schneiders.
We don't use last names at school, do we, really?
We don't.
No.
You and me, we don't, at least. But you are my teacher, my drawing teacher, and you are a teacher of many students here at the University of Applied Sciences of Amsterdam. You're also an artist. You're working on a graphic novel right now, and you're my counselor at my graduation project, which is Starboat, and this podcast is a part of it. So we're having a bit of an inception moment.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful for you to take the time to be with me here today.
Yeah, we're in a good start. Yeah, I suppose it's interesting to think about how we met. Was in class, I suppose. It was a drawing class, probably a first year.
I think it must be 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Actually, for me, a relief to be in your classes, because my expectations from going to engineering design were different from the reality, but you differed less from the reality, or maybe not. Maybe you differed from the reality in a positive way. So I was happy to be drawing in your classes. It was a fun experience. But I have a question, because back then when we met, there was no generative AI yet. And we were just drawing by hand mostly. Some people had iPads, but it was at least you were doing it with your hands. You may have had tools.
Yeah.
Like, what is your take on creatives using AI to create?
I think humans always use tools, right, to do things. So sort of pure state of not using tools or technology doesn't exist. So this is a new tool. But I suppose with most tools, it's about thinking. I think you need to think about how it enhances human capabilities, and not, you're creating new kinds of dependencies, and every tool has its sort of affordances and constraints. So how are you sort of developing yourself and your own kind of creative potential with the tool has to be kind of a key core question, I think. And even with drawing, like with a pencil, there's a relationship with.
It's already a tool.
Yeah. I mean, paper is a technology. Your pencils are technologies. I mean, you could even think of your hand and your arm as a kind of parts of, offering affordances and constraints. How you push down the quality of the paper, that all affects what comes out. So in that way, I think we kind of exist in a network of relationships between materials and intentions. So an AI is a new part of that kind of scheme of constellation of things that will affect.
You kind of just blew my mind, for real, because before ChatGPT was out, there were already image generation models. I think DALL-E was first. And I remember in one of your classes, this is, I think 3 years ago, I did an ideation with AI. It still looks kind of crappy, but it looked very crappy back then. But you were not opposed to it at all. I expected, I was kind of scared to do it. I expected teachers and students to see it more as cheating.
Cheating, yeah.
Yeah, but you were like, oh, yeah, interesting way of doing the ideation.
Yeah.
But just for the audience, if the way you answer this question, it shows to me also a real deep thinking about technology and the impact thereof. And we didn't mention it in the introduction, but you also give a course on the impact of technology. So that's where it comes from, right? You kind of, this is a theme that's close to you. You work a lot on it.
Yeah. But yeah, I suppose when we're thinking in that course about technology, we try to bring it right down to, a more fundamental questioned in that, not technology is not just high, the latest innovations, but, they exist throughout human history. And that, so it's not saying that all technology is desirable. And so I think we still can choose. It's not like just a sort of inevitable that we have to kind of just deal with the technologies that end up emerging.
Yeah, we can choose which technologies we deem important to develop further on and use in our daily lives. Yeah. But, about that, how did this new generative AI technology shape your drawing classes? Because for me, I don't know if you feel the same. For me, it was kind of a paradigm shift. I was when you saw me for the first time 4 years ago in your class, I was had a strong desire to be very technically good at drawing, and it kind of took the desire a bit away. To be honest, I was because in the end of the day, for me, it's always about getting my plan across effectively.
Yeah, I'm experimenting with it a lot, partly because I want to know what students are doing, but also because it's interesting. But I find it a little bit. I mean, you can also learn from it. So if you put in a prompt in Midjourney, which I'm using, a professional, you could say an ideation page of professional design drawings exploring sneakers based on biomimicry or something, and then you'll get a page of really nice drawings of, it's sort of like a first sweep of ideas.
Yeah.
So, but I think you could use it as a kind of sparring partner, I think, in a way. But I think also because it's a large language model, it tends to give you everything that would be expected, the most general. So
because it's just trained on the internet. So it is always the most general, and it looks very often a little bit like stock images. Because there's just a lot of them, and they were part of the training data. I think, like Sam Altman might deny this. But wouldn't it be interesting if you had this same technology, but you as the artist was in charge of the training data? Maybe you train it only on your own drawings. And start sparring with it in that way.
Yeah, you can do that actually with Midjourney now. I found that there's a kind of you can personalize it. So you get given a whole lot of images as sort of examples, and then you can click which you like and which you don't like. But the range of choices is quite limited. But you can also they have now style reference cards. So there's like 20,000 of them, lots of them. So it's just a code that you can add to your prompt, and it'll create a style that's based on.
I've seen that. You want I've seen that a lot. Like you can press I want it to be a comic style. Photorealistic. But what I mean, and I think the people must be working on this, is like there's a part of it which is kind of unethical because it's just unethical because, for example, you as an artist, if you put your magazines online, your comics, that we're gonna show you guys later on, it's very cool. But if you put them online, probably those big DALL-E models have had it in their training data. Likely, it's possible. So they kind of stole your intellectual property. But the technology that they showed with it was kind of cool. So my idea is, why won't you? I hope people are working on it. Like, why won't you take that technology and give that to the artist and say, use your own intellectual property and use the technology to generate more with it, or power you, something like that.
I think that's an interesting idea. I think it is a big problem. I mean, basically, why not pay people who are giving, generating? I don't think artists are often struggling financially, and that they wouldn't mind a little bit of pocket money. But then you end up maybe with a sort of like a lot of music streaming. The artists make such a small amount. Probably 5 cents a month is not going to really help you.
But there's also a counter thing to this. Is maybe we would have never seen the technology then, because it is unethical. But they are, like, OpenAI is burning through money. They're losing money. So if they also had to pay for the IP, and maybe they could have never get it off the ground. I'm not defending anybody here, but it's a cool. Maybe it could in the future go in that direction.
I just wonder, I mean, I think in the medical and in certain scientific things, and maybe in ways of just when there's huge data sets that need to kind of find patterns and stuff, that's interesting. But to create, I don't know, artworks, it seems like you really undermine the whole process, because I mean the value of creating art is actually in the creative process. It's the thinking and the working through and the struggling with the things and finding your own path through all the options that you have. And if it just sort of, you throw it out and it just gets thrown back at you, and it's a much more of a consumer kind of approach. And I think that.
But that also depends on how you use it, I think. Like if you as an artist just want an AI that makes your art for you and also creates the concept, does the whole thinking around it, then that AI is actually the artist. You just place yourself outside of the equation. But if you use that as tools to tell your story, I've seen some cool things with Touch Designer. I don't know if you know it. It's some sort of video software. I never used it before myself, but that's also with this generative AI models. Very cool. Somebody was dancing on stage, and then the camera caught it and threw it through AI models, and then it was a tree dancing. And it was like birds moving in the same way as the dancer. So then it became part of a beautiful, aesthetically pleasing performance. That was, I think, the concept of it. And the execution with AI was a art piece. So it depends. Are you going to be lazy with it? Then it's probably going to be very generic stuff as well what's coming out of it. But if you're going to push it to its limits, be rock and roll with it, it could be.
I don't think there's anything wrong with automizing certain kind of processes, because I mean, you could spend, animations in Walt Disney's time where, every cell, and if you look at beautiful animations like Spirited Away or something, they're all hand-drawn. That has a certain kind of quality that AI, maybe it can kind of get close to it, but I think the work and also the observational quality, an artist that really looks at things and can kind of draw out the magic, particular movement or movement, and to kind of give that away is, I think, a very a sad thing, really.
We shouldn't do that. I agree. But I think it also will not happen. I think people will gravitate towards the people who use AI in a way that doesn't take that away. Or maybe they use just whatever tools works best for them to tell that story that is inside them that needs to go out into the world. But about what you're saying, I do think that, I know it's one of the biggest in the world, so it might be corny to say it, but I recently went for the first time in my life to the Van Gogh Museum. Van Gogh, people who are not Dutch. And it's just incredible. He didn't draw reality, but he draw how reality feels. It was more real than reality, some paintings. So that was really cool to share.
It's quite impactful, isn't it, when you stand in front of something and it's so intense. And just the way he uses color, I mean, and everything. When you look at his early work, and it's brown and it's sort of modeled in a typical way, but that's related to the Impressionists who said, okay, color and light, it's all that, and there's no form, so it sort of starts to resonate.
But you maybe also really see how he felt through that, because he was, as I read in that museum, he was really idealizing the simple farmer life. Beginning of his career, and I think when he moved to Paris, that he still had parts of that, but it went away. At the beginning of his career, he idealized, so he was making portraits of these farmers. And they were already, for me, very much impressionist, because it felt probably much more like the emotion in those faces was very much like almost cartoony. Actually, almost cartoony.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that point, that we should not lose that,
Yeah.
no matter what. And I am hopeful that we are not losing it.
No, I think people will keep doing it
Yeah.
because it's nice to do. You know, it feels you're engaging with things. And
Let's go into Seb drawing class today, and how does that differ from before the AI came in?
so I think if I think of AI as a sparring partner and sort of that's something you can be in dialogue with, then you need to be able to communicate at that level. So, and because AI creates, if you prompt, you know, for in professional design drawings, then and you want to be able to respond to the prompts that you get, you need to be able to draw at the same level. So in a way, you can also learn from what it gives. The kind of conventions, I think, within, you know, that idea of what is industrial design drawing or different kinds of drawing. So because it kind of aggregates everything into an average, it tends to be quite close to what you would expect from as a teacher, from a good student, you know, because that's the average thing that the market would want. But then, so in a way you can learn from it. But I think in a way the drawing skill, because if you do a prompt and you get a lot of ideas of chairs, often you'll get like a chair. It all looks like chairs, but then if you look closely, the legs have got 5 legs, or they've got 3, or it's a bit Escher-like.
Yeah, it's a mathematically impossible or physically impossible shape.
So it looks good. The form is good, but content-wise, there's a lot of stuff missing because it's actually not thinking.
Yeah, sometimes it feels a bit like a fever dream, as if you were having a fever and you're dreaming about your AI sketches, and then or your own sketches. It would be.
It is, it is like a dream, I think. And then, so what do you do with that? You might see some nice ideas, some things, and you go, some inspiration. So then you'll want to be able to take one of those ideas and work with it yourself. And obviously, as an industrial designer, it becomes a more technical question about, you know, how strong is the chair, the joints, how are you going to make the joints, how are you going to, what sort of, is it going to fit in a mold to be able to, you know, how are you going to manufacture it? So there becomes a lot of technical questions, which AI is not going to be able to help you with.
Yeah,
like
and not yet though.
Not yet,
because there's I will link it in the comments for who's interested.
Yeah.
There is a startup working on making an AI cut modeling assistant. It looks very promising. Actually.
Yeah. So it needs to be able to actually think through real problems, questions. So I was trying out recently. I tried for a little drawing class. We would just practice drawing in side views of simple shapes. So it was a washing detergent bottle. Very boring, but I thought, well, maybe AI can create a nice cross-section or an orthographic sketch, you know, with a top view, a side view. And it gives you a sort of the look of it, but it's all completely wrong. You know, it is an orthographic, but it makes absolutely no sense at all. And so it's like, it's bullshitting, basically.
But what I'm getting from it is that according to you and also your students, right now it might be a fun starting point, a cool starting point. But then when you get further in the process, it becomes clear that it's actually not thinking and not understanding what it's doing.
It can do renders as well. I think there's apps, you know, there's tools now that you could actually put a drawing in, and then it will do, you know, render it. So add color and light and textures and store all that stuff. So, so those two ends are pretty well covered. I suppose it's really the middle section, that huge middle section,
which was already the most work in my experience. So for people who are not familiar with industrial design, what you do is you make it in a cut program where everything needs to be right. It's like all measurements need to add up to each other, and then you can test it if it's strong enough in a virtual environment, or you can just make it physically instantly. But if you're industrial, you often make it in a software form, so you can send that to factories.
Yeah.
Have made.
And you would print it first, 3D prints and prototypes and check a lot of stuff. And so that cycle, that iterative cycle would just go, quite a few times.
Yeah, you iterate on it, and the part of doing the cut drawings is a very tedious task because it needs to be very exact, and then you can get technical drawings and specifications that you can send to printers, manufacturers, and start experimenting with the product. But this is something that AI is, for now, as it seems, nowhere close to being helpful with. But
there's definitely developments. I'm sure that space is probably going to get smaller and smaller.
Yeah,
it'll be filling up.
There's two sides to it, because you have like, okay, we are maybe becoming too dependent, and also so you have like the negative sides. Maybe we're becoming too dependent, or maybe it's actually taking a lot of energy, and it would have been more efficient to have just humans figure it out. But we're forgetting how to do it. That's like a dystopian view. But a utopian view is like, hey, now anybody with a good idea without any technical skills can execute it, because you have this AI assistance that will help you get to these amazing products that can.
Yeah. I mean, my concern is that a lot of people with bad ideas will also be up. Yeah, right. So there's a certain the working through things is a way of testing and validating your concept with all different kinds of people, and that the fact that there is a resistance, the world resists the idea to a certain. It's a way of actually refining it and making it better. If that process is extremely smooth and doesn't have, avoids all that resistance, then you're going to get really unthought through kind of things entering the world, maybe on a massive scale. I mean, it's a bit like the Fab Lab thing, which was a great kind of revolution, but in the end, it's still good. But
what is the Fab Lab?
So 3D printing at local scale. So it's a kind of a shared space. So you can just go with your 3D file, have something printed, and that has potential definitely, and it's good. But a lot of things that are being made are just basically, keyring holders and more junk, really. I mean,
and even guns. Do you remember that? You could download a 3D printed gun. This is also an interesting discussion that sparked from that. If you have more things to say, we can get back to later. But let's move on to your work as an artist. One project that I already wanted to discuss was the story you worked on with the robot. I think we should talk about that. And you also told me you're working on a new graphic novel.
Yeah, I suppose we could start with that one that you saw. It was actually just I was printing it at school, and I remember you were like, "Oh, what's that?" It's like, "Oh, it's this." It was actually a friend who had a script, and he wanted to make a film, but it was too difficult to get that. So he asked, would I be interested in drawing it? So we worked a little bit on the script. For me, comics was a completely new form. I'd sort of been playing around with it a bit because when I studied art, I was a painter, and I wanted to make. I did a lot of painting,
Oil paintings.
Yeah, paintings, and I was sort of minimalist in a way. In the end, like sort of in the direction of someone like Rothko or something, very big material kind of paintings.
I would love to see some of that work.
Early Seb.
Yeah, but this is this also may be fun for the viewers. This is when you were still in Australia.
I went to art school in Australia when I finished high school. So
because Seb is from Australia, guys.
I suppose that's the dream of becoming an artist and being free and having just doing having your creative life. But it's it's very difficult. So I ended up like a lot of artists doing something else, and teaching was a great way in. I mean, so anyway, comics is a way to. I find it a nice form because it's somehow more democratic. You don't need a gallery. You don't need. You're kind of not really dependent. I mean, you might want a publisher, but you can publish online now. So it's just about telling stories, which is a nice thing to do, and visual stories are easy. And probably because I'm, my main focus and most of my energy goes into being a teacher. This is a hobby, really, I suppose. But it's something
But was it always a hobby, or is it because you mentioned like it's hard to be an artist? So why do you think it's hard to be an artist? What was your experience there? And is it?
Yeah, I think basically because it's like trying to be a top sport or something. There's a lot of competition. There's a very small market. Basically, everyone's competing for grants. Very few grants. There's less and less money in that section, and the other side.
Geert Wilders is not really fond of
the archer section. And then then the other side is you basically creating a luxury product for the very wealthy, and so you could do that as well, and create nice things for people to hang on nice big walls in big houses. But yeah, that didn't really interest me.
Yeah, that doesn't sound that meaningful.
Yeah,
indeed. But a comic is something that I feel like indeed more democratic in a way.
Yeah, it's a bit more popular culture.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like who doesn't enjoy a good comic?
Yeah.
Like you have the hardcore nerds, but I think almost everybody read a Donald Duck once in their lives.
Yeah. It's I suppose it's a lower art form, I suppose traditionally. So you could say,
well,
but there's that's obviously changed.
Yeah, because definitely traditionally, because I was in the Louis Vuitton Foundation, and they have an exhibition on pop art.
Yeah,
I think currently still.
Yeah,
it was not too long ago in Paris.
Yeah,
and there you see like the comics.
Yeah,
on big expensive walls in the Louis Vuitton Foundation. So they elevated it to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, rich people level.
Yeah. Louis Vuitton is definitely that cultural elite, I suppose, in that sense, or at least financially. Yeah. For me, it just offers a space that's easily accessible, and it's a huge thing. Like basically drawing, you can create worlds, and then you can populate the worlds with people and who tell stories, and that gives an enormous amount of freedom. Also, you're not limited to any kind of physical thing, so you can just take gravity away, you can make people fly, you can have dreams, and you can do psychedelic. It could go anywhere you want because whatever you have your pencil and you can make it happen.
That's the freedom that an industrial designer can only dream of.
Yeah.
But the artists, they have it.
Yeah.
But let's dive into it, because I really enjoyed seeing this one. Are you okay if I show it to the camera? So what are we looking at?
So actually, it starts in a kind of in a cyber space, a world in the circuits and folders of a robot, and then, well, the robot wakes up, and the robot's an attractive girlfriend robot who's been bought by a middle-aged.
There we see the middle-aged guy in the corner,
and he's a little bit. No, he's happy. He's got his new plaything, and she's there to help him.
That's
feel good and be happy.
Programmed to do, right?
Yeah. And they have this kind of domestic kind of discussions, and she's failing her task a little bit, and he's being, like the entitled man. He's got this thing, and he has certain sort of rights, but not many obligations. So yeah, that it explores that a little bit. It's a short story in the sense that he takes her. This is actually, I have to say, this is I give credit to Marcus Bryson, who wrote the script and came up with the story. So, but there was no world. There was the characters didn't exist. So I created the world and the future space.
So how did creatively, how did that process go? He came up with like the structure of the story.
Yeah, I had a script basically. Yeah,
But it had no characters yet.
it had characters. It had the robot, the father, the boyfriend, the mother. They just so the story was
there,
there,
but visually not yet.
so it was just written as a script. There were a few little drawings, but yeah. So for then you have a script and you kind of start thinking, okay, where does this? How do we start? What's the first moment? What's in the room? How does the boyfriend? What does he look like? What does she look like?
I need to find one good picture of this boyfriend because he looks. I think you did a great job. Like this one here. I hope if you guys can't see it, maybe I can give you some resources. But this is the boyfriend here with the glasses.
It was a little influenced by Robert Crumb. I don't know if he's a very famous comic artist. For me, that was also just a process of learning how to do a comic, how to set a stage, what sort of view. It's a bit like filmmaking in a way, It's not perfect, but it's all like you just dive in and try to make it work.
This one really resonated with me. It's just because, of course, I'm very interested in technology, and that's part of it. It's kind of a dystopian thing that you did here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it shows like the negative traits of man.
Yeah. What happens when you just, get what you want, and it's like, I want this and I'll order it and then I'll have it. And then, in a way that you end up in a sort of a vacuum, a meaningless vacuum, because it's, life is not more than just getting, what you want.
Do you think that if automation and AI come to bring this world to a point where nobody needs to work anymore to get what they want, that we will have a huge existential crisis together?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I don't know. I think that there are certain, we want to be doing something useful is a way of having some meaning, right? So, this idea of self-actualization, being free of work and then being able to fully self-actualize in your free time. I don't know if that really holds up, because it's nice to, feel like you're doing something useful, making the world maybe a little bit better.
Like on first thought, I agree with you because that's where I feel like I get my drive and my value from. Like I think this Starboat thing that I'm doing is very important and gives me energy to get up in the morning, and taking care of the people around me is very important. So yeah, but on the other hand, if you think about it like this, like a pro football player, he feels what he's doing is very important, but it's just a game. So I see it's a possibility for some sort of utopia where we put our sense of importance and adding value into becoming very good at these games. And I don't mean only literal, like football's a literal game, it's a sport. But if you think about my bakery near my house, it pretends to be very like a craft, but it's not. So it's also already some sort of a game, some sort of a simulation. But that's where people do get maybe we're going into some sort of where we simulate that feeling of value. And now it still sounds a bit dystopian maybe, but I think it could be also something very cool if you think about that no one has to worry about food security, healthcare. Like if we're dreaming like Marlene says that it's the lies of Silicon Valley maybe. But if what I'm trying to say is like if we take care of all of that, maybe we can find meaning in playing together. Things and just the relationships that we have to each other, the admiration we have for each other there.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I suppose children play and they don't have responsibilities, and they can have friendships and fights, and they learn how to be social in that space with. But in a way, I think that growing up is part of moving beyond that space and taking responsibilities a little bit more seriously, and that adds value as well to your life. So I wouldn't actually, in my utopia, not working, only playing all the time. Not sure.
From me personally, it would also not be. I think it would not be sufficient. Like I think about this weirdly often. I think, and the way I would see that society is you have a class. It's not hierarchical. Like there's like everybody in this utopia. Everybody has we just all agree upon one thing, which is we value humans. So if you're a human, it's not classes above each other, but you do have groups that you have the group that is content in playing the games, and I think artists would be kind of a part of that. But maybe also not, because maybe they would be slightly part of the philosophers group that are thinking about, okay, we have this system running, but what direction are we taking it in? So then you would have a philosophers group who's just really trying to understand the system that we are in, that's fully automatically operating, and you have still an engineers class as well that's trying to understand. So the philosophers trying to understand why and where can we take this still, and the engineers class is still trying to understand, keeping up with the sciences and how the things work. And then you have these, you grow up in this world where you are secure, you don't need to do anything. But if you are curious, you would go to, if you're curious about being about self actualization, you could be in the playing class, because you're like, I want to see how far I can take being a footballer. I want to see how far I can take being a baker or whatever, and put my love and passion into it. But if you're curious in the way, I want to see how this world works, you would go into these engineering or philosopher directions, and still maybe not directly.
Maybe. Is that very different from what we have now? I mean, you can choose, I suppose, if you're interested, you choose your study. You could study political science or philosophy, or you could go a bit about engineering.
But I think it's the feeling that you can choose is a very privileged feeling. I think probably, I'm not sure, because I am from a surrounding where people did have that feeling that they could just choose what they want to do. But I think most people in the world, they choose based on a fear, based on hey, I need to be able to take care of myself in the future. And so they are more strategically choosing. Okay, if I become, I have a chance to become a lawyer. If I do this side job and I can, maybe I could get into this university and become a lawyer and make a living and take care of my family and myself. And so I think most people are in that mode in life. I think maybe 90% of the world is in that mode.
I think it's a fair enough, it's a valid fear, right? I mean, in a way, after I studied art, I ended up in a working crappy jobs for not much money, and I was I regretted some of those decisions, because I was a very romantic idealist about what I wanted, and I thought, I'll be a bohemian in a garret in Paris and talk philosophy, and I don't mind not having much money. It's going to be fine. But when you're working a lot and not making much and just trying to survive, it's hard. So I think it's a very valid thing to think about. Right now, being able to survive and being able to get by is.
So we're not really in that utopia. That's kind of the point. And I think indeed, even in my surroundings that feel like they have that choice, at the end of the day, they do need to take responsibility. Most of them, at least. They do need to be okay. Also for me, I started studying very late, which is okay, if I want to really be independent. I should start making some different life choices now and start working that job. And you're doing that studies that I can, in your case, working crappy jobs to get by. You couldn't make art the whole day.
Teaching was a good way out of that for me. Like, it was an opportunity, and that really, so I started as a drawing teacher in an engineering degree, not an art degree. So that was a sort of a whole new kind of ecosystem that I felt.
Yeah, it was really about technical drawing a lot.
Yeah.
I followed some of your classes where it was less about that, and I enjoyed that a lot. But
Yeah, a lot of it is just learning how to.
You're on too. It's just about how to work with perspectives and stuff.
Yeah. So that was for me. I learned to do it, kind of on the job. But that I think that's interesting in terms of education as well. Like, on the one hand, you have training. You have to learn new skills, and that can be kind of almost like you're drilling, and then you have this other side, which is about empowering students and finding your own path. So it's and finding the balance between, I think if you think of drawing like a language, it's important to learn how to, write the letters. It's important to learn how to spell and about grammar, so that you can communicate. And when those things are basically just conventions that kind of give you access to the world.
Yeah.
And in drawing, you have some of those things can be quite useful because it's just a way of. But then then comes the freedom question: is what are you going to do with it? I think, and then
Now you know how to show your ideas, and what are those ideas?
Yeah.
What impact would they have?
Yeah.
If you draw them, and convince people to make them or make them yourself. Happen. That's very, very interesting. And I must say also on that note that I am happy that your life path led you to become a teacher, because you are an amazing teacher.
That's nice.
Yes.
Thank you.
But I really want to drive into one of I think the top favorite course that I followed in my studies. I almost round up all courses now, and it was Impact of Technology. But before we do that, I want to just dive into your graphic novel idea that you're working on right now.
Okay.
We're gonna switch gears. I don't want to skip on that part, So you showed me some drawings. Maybe you want to show them to the viewers as well.
Yeah, maybe. So it's all in development. So basically, well, it's more personal. It's a personal story in a way, but it's also about some bigger questions.
This is a beautiful drawing.
Yeah, it's actually quite. It's so. I'm at it.
If I hold it up.
Oh yeah, you can show it. So yeah, this is quite intense. But so a few years ago, my father had a stroke, and he started that process of basically falling apart, right? And he ended up in this kind of in a whole network of support from partly the care system, but also depending on me and other people to get by.
Was your father living in Australia?
No, in Holland.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
He's Dutch. So part of the reason I could be here was because he was Dutch. My parents divorced when I was 8, so I didn't have a lot of contact, but I kind of built up a relationship with him. And then at a certain point, he was a very, very independent, really believed in autonomy and taking responsibility for your choices. And he wasn't necessarily there as a kid. So I had this very kind of difficult relationship having to care for him. And I was like, well, you didn't care for me that much.
It stings a bit, maybe.
Yeah. But what was interesting in all that was that the idea of, how autonomy and dependency creates new kinds of relationships and opens new ways, new kinds of intimacy, and how how he dealt with that and how I dealt with it becomes a kind of a thing. But and also because of that physical sort of falling apart, but it became also mental. So he had dementia, not very far, but with all the things, he was really losing grip. And so this story sort of will go through these different levels of experience. It has that aspect, but it also has memories. So my memories and his memories, and so that will be these sort of little sections will be memories, and other things are dreams and fears and even hallucinations. So I kind of see it as these different layers that kind of feed through each other, and in that sort of cycle, you kind of tell this story. In a way, the themes would be about the way, another. We in the impact of technology, we also talked about different kinds of ethics. So, the ethics of care or relational ethics, so creating a new kind of value, which is not based on just whatever, getting what you want or rationally getting the most out of something, which would be a utilitarian position, but more of that meaning evolves in relationships between different things, people.
Some things are getting back at me from the impact of technology class now that you mentioned it, because this is going to be a tough one to explain, I think, to the viewers. But everybody is probably familiar with the train track dilemma.
Oh yeah.
And I'm one of those
truly
yeah. So you just for if you don't know, it's the dilemma of there's a train running down a track where there's 5 people bound to the track. So it's about to run over 5 people, but you have a lever and you can switch it so that it runs over only 1 person.
Yeah.
The question is then, will you switch? Will you pull that lever? And I'm one of those people who instantly says, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna save 4 people. It's a positive.
Yeah.
But you never really shared like a definitive answer on it. But you did challenge me on it. You said like that's a way of rationally. So
yeah. It's about when you take responsibility. But the next level of that thing is, okay, so we have the same situation again, but there's no lever. There's a really big guy on a bridge, and you can push him off the bridge onto the track and it will stop the train. So instead of killing 5 people, you'll kill 1 person, which is exactly the same thing. But you have to push him.
And then it becomes already more like, whoa, but that's kind of murder.
Yeah.
The poor guy was just standing there like,
yeah.
But it's in terms of outcome, it's exactly the same thing, right?
Yeah. So you're kind of posing these sort of moral questions to draw out the discussion, because there's the answers are ambiguous. There's no real right answer, right? So it opens the space for discussion, and that's really what it's about, having discussions and actually, stating your case and giving your reasons for that.
I would still push the fat guy though, but let's dive into that course, because it was one that really inspired me and helped me shape the Starboat vision too. So the course title is Impact of Technology. Why is this course important? What is the
So we're in a technical study, right? So a lot of courses are basically about how to do things. So how do sensors work? And very talented and people who know how to make things work are giving courses, and that's great. You can learn a lot of stuff. This course it probably fits more into the professionalization line. Instead of thinking about how to do things, it's more about what and why you do what you do. So the basic idea is that the future is emergent, and that we as students mostly are going to influence it to some degree. maybe a very small degree or a more degree, but that you're going to be a part of that future. So you're part of how the future emerges. We basically start the course with if you're going to shape the future by starting a career, what's the future that you want? What sort of future do you want for yourself? That's an individual. You could be completely, even if you say, oh, well, I just want to have a good life, I want to have a good income, I want to have some kids and a dog and just be happy. But we also pose the question, well, what's also a good life for society? What sort of society do you want to live in?
And if you want a good life, then that probably needs to be in a good climate with good neighbors, and so it's all connected.
Yeah.
To bigger issues as well.
Yeah.
Even if you are somebody who thinks more about their direct surroundings, it's still it's still indirectly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So we open the field, I suppose, and in a way, as education, in a way, it's a way of just giving students, you get study points, right? So you have a certain amount of time, and we'll kind of see it more as kind of clearing the field. So you say, okay, now we have time to think and talk about values and about the what you want to. How do you want to direct your own future, and what do you believe in, and the other side is about how to have good discussions. Like if you disagree with each other in class, how do you state your case, and how do you do that in a respectful way?
Yeah.
And how do you back up? An argument would have a kind of hypothesis, and then you support that with claims, and then you have your claims you have to support with evidence. And so basically, in that sense, it's just practice to putting an argument about something together.
Yeah. It was about debating, and also what I learned, or what you encouraged me to do, and that's something I still take with me in how I try to do this podcast, is try to get some different views of different viewpoints of people on an issue.
Yeah.
And see how they relate to each other, and relate yourself to them as well.
Yeah.
Like, okay, then.
Yeah.
So that was interesting to think about it like that.
Yeah.
And what's also interesting in the way that you, and also we need to give a shout out to Kira.
Yeah.
Because she was, when I followed it, she was still also giving me. So the way both of you set up that class and the discussions in that classroom is indeed, you guys didn't really give a right or wrong.
Yeah.
It was that was up to us to decide what do you think is right or wrong.
Yeah.
So it gave a lot of freedom.
Yeah. We really emphasize that at the beginning.
The right or wrong was if you structured your argument well. It was not
what you argued. It's
what you argued, but how you argued.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
So we were, and it was difficult for me. It was not difficult. It was where I could flourish.
Yeah.
But for a lot of students, it was very difficult to think about the what and the why, because they are just trained to say, this is the what and the why, now you do it. And even like, here's a template. Fill it in.
Yeah, that's where I think, in a way, that the sort of the bigger kind of questions about what education is, what it should be, or what I think it should be, is about you, in a way, confronting students with their freedom. You have a lot. You have life choices, and you make those things, and that you should take responsibility for. You have choices, and there are outcomes, and so that's and being in discussion is a way of kind of refining your own arguments or changing your point of view, which is also important. You should. I don't think you should ever be in a discussion if you're unwilling to change your mind. Maybe there are better arguments.
Maybe there are. Yeah. I like it. I like it if people are able to do that. To be that sounds. It's funny because I feel like maybe the childish notion is, oh, I convinced somebody so that one person was weak. But sometimes when somebody is in front of me changing their mind, like, hey, okay, you kind of make sense actually, right?
Yeah.
then I gain a respect for them. Sometimes.
Yeah.
It depends. It should not be a pushover either, because I'm also connected to the venture center here.
Yeah.
And there's startups. Then one person tells them this is not a good idea, and they change the whole idea. They pivot. They are so weak in their conviction.
Yeah.
It's a balance.
It's good to have a bit of resistance and pushback. It's a way of, it's healthy competition in a way, you know, like you think, you know, competition is in dialogue is also okay. It's as long as it's a healthy, you know, it's a way of getting your bit.
But to dive in to linger a little bit more on that, what you believe education should be, because you're in the middle of it. The education that we're in, it's industrial engineering at the University of Applied Sciences in Amsterdam. You are there. You have influence on how at least your classes are going, and I think also in some degree on the entire direction.
Yeah, small bit of influence, maybe. I mean,
So what should this field look like? This field of industrial engineering?
Yeah, that's a big question. You know, firstly, I have to say I'm not an engineer, so I always had a bit of imposter syndrome feeling being there, teaching there. But basically, I suppose my level of engagement would be more on the way of at a higher level of what education should be. I think education should really be just about empowering students. But the thing is, obviously, you don't know what you don't know. So you need to be confronted by the possibilities of different things, and that's where some sort of guidance is helpful. And then the question of how to do things is empowering as well. You know, if you learn how to, how to code or how to build things about production techniques or materials, all those things are also empowering.
Absolutely.
So I suppose it's just about exposing students to a lot of options and then helping students find their own path through, you know, to create the future that they want for themselves. And I suppose a lot of it is just about, there's this quote about, education's not about filling buckets, but it's about lighting a fire. Yeah. I quite believe in that approach, you know.
I like that. I like the quote, education is not about filling buckets, it's about lighting a fire.
Yeah.
I have a funny anecdote on the first year. So as I said, I was a bit disappointed going into the studies, not with your courses, not with some other courses that I thought were very cool. I loved how the industry was close to the school. So did a assignment for KLM airlines and stuff. But what I was KLM, what I was so disappointed with was then I wanted to design the plane. But they said, no, you can design the package of the thing.
Yeah.
And I remember one of those first classes that broke my idea of designing airplanes and aircrafts and like big shiny things was when we had a class on a bottle, like how is a plastic bottle made? And it was about blow molding, injection blow molding and stuff. But it opened up my mind because I realized in that class, I don't know how bottles are made, and I've used them. Like maybe I shouldn't, but I lose if I buy a permanent one. I lose it, but I use them every day. I have no idea how bottles are made. After that class, I knew how they were made.
Yeah,
and it just kicked something in me. Then I wanted to know how the internet is working, how mobile phones are made, how the world that we are using is made. So that's did ignite a fire in me. That's.
Yeah.
So I welcome to that. Oh, we're going to talk about models. Why not jet skis, right?
Yeah.
And then it was like, I just didn't know how it was made.
Yeah. I like the idea that, nothing is really boring, right? It's just about the amount of attention you give it, right? So boring is lazy. You could look at it, anything is interesting if you kind of give it enough attention. So you could say that education could be about attention, giving things attention.
You go deeper into it, give it attention.
Yeah.
Start asking questions.
Yeah, and learning about how things are made. I mean, if I think of like most indigenous cultures, like in Australia, Aboriginal, that really know everything about their environment, all the plants, all the cycles of when things grow, how it all works and how it all fits together. So they really live in an ecology where they understand where they are. And we're kind of a bit, we're a bit strangers to our environment, because we don't know how plastic bottles are made, and we don't know how. So in a way that, that knowledge is sort of empowering, because it gives you a deeper understanding of
It absolutely is, yeah. And like you can sometimes feel that something is wrong in the outcome. Public opinion knows like the internet kind of sucks in many ways with the addictive algorithms and stuff.
Yeah.
But then if you start to take this approach of, okay, but I want to understand how it works as well, then you can find leverage points where, hey, if we can tweak this in the algorithm and if we can change this in the UI, like these things are makeable. They don't have to exist the way they exist.
Yeah.
People made them.
Yeah.
We can change it.
Yeah, that's where also with impact of technology, but also just generally that there's that new field or old field of thinking of things as a system, right? System thinking. And you're looking at the way, all the interdependencies between things. And if you want to change something, it's interesting to look at the whole space as a series of relationships, and then trying to find the points where you can have effect.
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting. Lena Stickers said about in the last podcast about that idea of the internet as this sort of utopian free space where everything can happen. But, all the networks, the cables, the servers, everything's owned by somebody with their own kind of political,
Their objectives.
Their objectives. So maybe it's just making money, but it's not free. There are all these interdependencies.
No, it's true. It's fun to reflect on the last podcast with you. I think we should do it more because you watched it and I was in it, and you recommended me to invite her. You were actually the second person to recommend me to invite her. It was a year before that. Jeroen van Vorselen, different teacher, also said you need to talk to her.
Yeah.
And then after that, 2 more people recommended me to invite her, but I said I already did. She's coming.
I was very. I was. She's an important person. And you're a student, whatever. That you just have the bravado just to go out there and do it, and make that connection. I think is
but it was amazing and very kind of her to show up, because I talked to her assistant.
Yeah,
and her phone is hot.
Yeah,
it's ringing hot. She's so Marleen Sticker. She's kind of like the inventor of social media in a way. It's been independently invented in different places, but like way back, like 30 years ago, she had a social media running called Digital City.
Yeah.
So it's super cool to talk to her and learn her perspective. And I took away a lot, very inspired by her ideas of open protocols and this notion of distributed networks. That she said it's so important to have it set up that way. I believe that too.
Yeah.
But I also walked away a bit disappointed, to be honest, with all the respect to Marleen, and maybe we need to discuss about it again.
Yeah.
And I want to know also what your take on it was, because I felt like even though the criticism may be valid, I feel it's unproductive to sit here and speculate about how evil Elon Musk may or may not be. My approach is more like Elon Musk with his X, and however he may or may not manipulate that to exert political influence. Instead of complaining about that, let's create an alternative. Let's create something that's so undeniably better for people that you don't even have to tell them Elon Musk is evil or whatever. Yeah. You can just be like, yo, look at this product though, and why would you even use X?
Yeah. I agree with that, because I think your things. There's this saying, things go where your attention goes. So if you're giving attention to all that negative stuff. You're not spending time building
Yeah,
the thing that we want. So, maybe it's just a matter of saying, okay, we don't want it like this. So just park that and start building the thing you do want.
the way maybe I should phrase it, I would rather be a builder than a critic.
Yeah.
And I think I'm in the right education for that as well. So that's all good. I would rather be a builder than a critic. And she has also been a builder, but that was maybe my disappointment. She maybe turned into more of a critic or a commentator.
I think she basically, I thought what I took away was her point was that, you can build a beautiful house on rotten foundations, then it's going to, what are you doing? It's going to collapse anyway. So, and that idea of a federated internet is and what I thought, I mentioned, because it's like we're living in this world and we're, we don't even know that there's all this stuff exists. Like when you started this project, I didn't know about the Fediverse or any of those things, and maybe I don't know if you knew about it. But suddenly this door opens and you see this world that exists already with people who have been working on the same kind of things, that you've been working on. That she said you're not alone. You're not alone in this at all.
Yeah, that was that's something I'm very thankful about. It's what she and her organization have been doing, is promoting these alternatives on the Fediverse. Like, hey, delete your X and come on Mastodon.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm thankful for. Is now that thanks to her, I came in touch with it and I tried it and I saw what's wrong with it. But I do believe it's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
and we should have these open protocols.
Yeah,
but you should that should be not your ad. That should not be your selling point. Because yes, we should have them, but we should also have a far superior, like undeniably superior product.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think you will always be an alternative and never the next main thing.
No, I agree. I mean, we could sort of generally assume, I think it's fair to assume that a large portion of the population really doesn't care enough to sacrifice much for the ease. If you have a less ethical product, which is shinier, better, nicer, whatever, more appealing in any way, then it's going to be hard to ask someone to choose something that's less appealing.
True.
For their ideals.
But that's one thing that Marlene and I completely agreed on.
Yeah.
Is that exactly for that reason is you want to make it easy for people to migrate to the best solution for them.
Yeah.
That's just as nice if people can do that.
Yeah.
And now because of networking effects, you can't.
Yeah.
So what she is promoting, and I'm gonna just repeat that after her and push that too, is we need to have open protocols.
Yeah.
Because like I want Starboat to just be the best platform, and therefore people will use Starboat.
Yeah.
And then I want to be challenged actually by competitors. I want somebody else to come up and say, hey, we did Starboat in a better way. I say, no, we can do better.
Yeah.
And like the competition needs to be open, but now it's locked in because
it's like cheating, right? It's like an unhealthy competition, because you have competition is good when people when imagine top sporters, they'll compete against each other even though they really want to win, and they'll go and do that with respect for each other and fairly, But if someone's doping or doing other things to get an advantage, or then it's not going to be and it's helpful.
It's harmful for the consumer, because instead of us all using Google and Meta because they have the superior product, we're using them because they have created a walled garden of users, and we want to communicate with them. Mostly with Meta, it's the way. Like Google is getting some serious competition now.
Yeah.
But mostly with Meta, it's like we are all on Instagram, and I do want to check out my friends. So I'm not gonna go to some better alternative, some ethically better alternative, as long as all my friends are on Instagram.
Yeah.
But
There's a theory about making, if you what was it from? Fogg, BJ Fogg, I think his name is. It's about, motivation and effort, right? So, and there's this curve, and you have to try and get people over this trigger line. And basically, he says motivation is difficult, but if you can reduce effort, then you need less motivation.
Yeah.
So basically, you want to make it something effortless, and then you can get all those people with little motivation to do it, right?
Yeah.
But if it's going to be hard, then you're going to need a lot more motivation to get over the action line. And
you showed this in class. I will look if I can find it and put it up here.
Yeah.
Because this was during Impact of Technology. You showed it. And after that, I developed my own design principle for within the Starboat movement for it. It's called Starboat candy barring.
Yeah.
It's the idea that just as now on the internet, the unhealthy choices are kind of the easiest ones. In the supermarket, it's the same. Like if you are short on cash and time, the chances that you run out of the supermarket with some unhealthy processed food is super high. Because it's mostly that, and it's also often the cheaper options. It has reasons, right? Those things are more economically easier, like they're easier to store. If it's just a bar of sugar, then it doesn't really go bad and something easy to. But what if where now the Mars and the Snicker lays, there's another candy bar, a Starboat candy bar. The packaging looks much cooler and more colorful and more appealing. Price-wise, it's equal or lower. And then when you eat it, it's healthy for your body. But it tastes amazing too. That's a Starboat candy bar like design direction, is making the healthy choice the easy and the coolest and the most fun choice as well.
Yeah.
And I miss that in the current Fatty First movement. It's just like, hey, we are the healthier, the privacy first alternative.
Yeah. I thought that was a really valid, interesting point from Marlene as well. She said, that the Fediverse and all that it's her world are people who do coding and developers and programmers and stuff, and they're like in that hackers world, which is they like everything. It's like having cars with the hood off. There's no shell on it, and it doesn't look like a new, I don't know, whatever, an Audi or something which is nicely packaged. It's just the motor, and that there's almost that. I thought that was quite shocking. So those are people who are basically motivated ideologically also to create a healthier space, and there's no designers in that world.
Yeah, we need to change that.
There's no designers in that, and I think, well, but I mean.
Yeah, and that's cool about her too. She's working to change that. Over here, she has a minor in trying to get those disciplines.
Yeah. So in a way, it was like an invitation into that world.
But she also said things that kind of hurt me.
Yeah.
Because she was just like, why does it have to be Starboat? I think I understand what she meant. She was like, don't build a separate thing if other people are already working on this Fediverse connected to that and help that space, right?
Yeah.
But then it felt a bit hurtful because I felt like I did not really have the chance to explain to her what Starboat really is. And then she's already sitting here next to me saying, why should it have to be like, shouldn't be Starboat or something? So that was a bit...
I think she was basically just sort of just very sensitive to the idea of the world domination takeover kind of idea, that it has to go viral and be the main thing. Whereas, it could just be, because that's basically what's happened in Silicon Valley, where, a few companies have just eaten all the other ones. So she's probably a bit like, don't. That's not something that she would support if that was your goal.
Yeah, but in a way it is my goal, because not to become
not to lock everyone out.
Not to lock
locked in.
everyone in, but to become the main thing is my goal, because I want this better internet in the hands of everybody.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I invited you here, which is actually is I also wanted some space to explain to people what is Starboat and what's the idea behind it. And you are my counselor now in the thing, so I thought it would be helpful to try to explain to the audience together what I'm really about and what I'm trying to do with it.
Yeah.
And I have like three layers of it. It's the highest level is the name Starboat and the big idea behind it that I want to explain. Then I want to explain the vision that we have for technology on Starboat. That's something I really deepened on in this Impact of Technology course. And then I want to end it off by explaining, this is the first product that we're building, right?
Yeah.
So
Starboat. Yeah.
yeah, so Starboat is what we are like. Why does it have to be Starboat? Why there should be many Starboats? No, there's only one Starboat, and we're all in it. It's a way of looking at existence. So I'm inspired by Buckminster Fuller's book Spaceship Earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where he talks about Earth, like the way he set it up is like, if you would be on a spaceship and you have only a bit of food and space and you're with a lot of people, you gotta like be very efficient with this food and space and communicate effectively.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how long you're in the spaceship.
Yeah.
This is planet Earth.
Yeah.
We are with a lot of people on it, flying through space.
Yeah.
And then I had to extend it because of ideas about like Mars colonization. So Starboat is really just us, the journey of existence. Totally, that's like the highest level of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the notion that, hey, we care about this journey, we want to continue this journey, and in order to do so and do so pleasantly, we need to communicate effectively and we need to be smart with resources.
Yeah. So a boat is kind of like a closed ecosystem in the universe that needs to kind of be sustainable in a way.
Yeah, we want to sustain this journey of life that we're on together.
Yeah.
And maybe that's also why I push back when people try to demonize people that maybe they're right to demonize them, but I don't like to do that because we're all in this boat. Also, the politician that you hate, that's we.
You could say that some politicians or some people don't see the boat or don't care about sinking the boat, right? So there's a boat that needs, and if there's somebody on the boat, with or loading the boat up with lots of gold, maybe just filling the boat up with gold. That's tipping, and you're like, stop filling the boat up. We're gonna drown.
It's hoarding the gold.
It's like, no, but I need more gold. I need more gold. And you're like, no.
But those people are there. They are there, and I see them.
Yeah.
And we need to address that and make sure it doesn't happen. But when you start, those people, they also use traps. They want you to talk about the Nazi salute, Yeah. They want you to, so that they can use it like, see, they try to put me as a Nazi, but they are real.
Yeah.
So they're playing this game.
Yeah.
And now we can go already one level to lower, to more reality. They're playing this game. People are playing this game on the internet of grabbing your attention and pushing them towards believing in an ideology or of supporting a cause by buying products. And the people who are doing that from the top down, who have the money to advertise or buy platforms, they are right now controlling the space and influencing us and influencing the topics we think of and talk about. Yeah. And those topics are often not relevant to our lives.
Yeah.
And I want to flip that around.
Yeah.
So I want an internet where all the algorithms and interfaces are made for the individual users to steer through the sea of information.
Yeah.
That's the big vision of Starboat for the internet. Like, it needs to be effective communication tool for humans to communicate with each other on a equal grounding.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think we talked about that in that subject as well, maybe, the attention economy, that there's this limited amount of attention. If you think of attention as a resource, and there's all these humans with attention, with time, with days, which they can be looking at a screen, whatever, and there's this intense competition to get as much of it as possible, and different players are better at it than others, and so you kind of entering that space is it's a very competitive space. How do you you're saying if we can, because people feel it's like sitting on the couch and eating 12 packets of chips. You did it, but you don't feel kind of satisfied. You feel like, oh, it's not horrible. So if you can help people to feel healthier and better with their internet use by just letting you could have a small packet of chips and then go and do something useful.
Yeah, I want to not be moralizing. Like, it's not like I want to have a algorithm and I decided that you see broccoli on top of your shopping list every day.
Yeah.
But I want to help people achieve their goals.
Yeah.
That's what that's what the new internet is going to do. That's what the Starboat internet is going to do. It's like you have certain objectives, long term, and you are going to have the tools to achieve them to the best of your ability, and we are going to help you navigate this world of information.
So you're saying basically, you have this sort of tension between your long-term goals and your short-term behavior, right? And because we're, in the long term, we're often idealists and very moral, and we do everything good and for a better world. And in the short term, we say, oh, yeah, well, I'll just do it tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow I'm going to eat healthy. Now it's a bag of chips.
And because internet is built in the way where you can't control that, so you want to be able to create an online experience where you're working towards your own sort of normative goals or your own better self, if you want that.
If you want that, you are working towards your objectives.
Yeah.
So to make it more practical, to explain it in a way that's really down to earth, what is this going to look like compared to now? Right now, if you have a feed on Instagram Reels or TikTok, the only leverage you have to filter through content is either a manual search, or you have to like or swipe quickly if you don't like it, in hopes the algorithm picks up, oh, this content, we don't show it again. You can report it if you want to, but that's like button, report, why did you, so that's the tools you have. And the default is we're trying to keep you on this platform as long as possible.
Yeah.
With Starboat, we're first changing the default. Is we're just trying to find exactly what's relevant for you. So we measure your user data that stays yours. We're not selling it to advertisers or anything. It's your user data, and you can use it your way. Like, so instead of measuring your watch time, we rather measure, did you like it? Did you think it was interesting? Did you learn something? Was it an event that you were invited to? Because that's more relevant to your life.
Yeah.
If I'm shown some cool dude partying in Australia and I'm just looking at his Instagram, but none of those parties I was invited to, right?
Yeah.
Why did it show up on my feed? Like, it looked cool. Yeah. It kept me watching, but it didn't help my life.
Yeah.
So we are changing that. We are more in your circle of influence, trying to find content that's relevant for your life.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, we want to give intuitive tools where you can see what is the personal data that is being used for your algorithm right now. What does it look like visually?
Yeah.
So we want to have word. For example, if I love dog content, you would have a big word dogs into it.
Oh yeah, like a word cloud.
Yeah,
sort of.
And if I love chips, but I'm getting fat and I want to change that, you have the big chips, and I get all the offers for chips right now because this algorithm learned that I'm really enjoying chips, and every time I see nice potato chips, I order them. I can delete that. I can say, I don't want that. I'm that person right now, but I don't want to be that anymore. Remove chips.
Yeah, so it's sort of aspirational, what you can actually...
Yeah, I want to really give intuitive tools to people where they can see their personal data and edit it.
Yeah.
So that they can form their person to who they want to become, who they want to be.
Yeah.
And I wanted, so that's what I'm working on in the span of the coming years.
Yeah.
Beyond that, there's hardware. There's how does it, if we are going to use the internet that way, how does it change the way it should look? I think we're going to move more into wearables and less into phones. This is not economical, but that's, I think for now, beside the point. I think we should go a level more to the now to make it more,
So your project for graduation would try to get it small enough that
that I can build it, that I can launch something. And I want to have this platform where you can see anything and buy anything and go to any event. But in order to have that, you need to start somewhere. And I believe the right place to start is with creatives, with artists. And before even having a platform, you need content, because otherwise there's no feed, right?
Yeah.
There's no feed to search with your algorithm.
Yeah.
So the first thing I'm set out to do is figure out what artists need to share their content effectively online. So I'm right now on the side of artists. This will move to all people, but right now the first thing is how can I help artists navigate the digital space better?
Yeah.
And I'm creating a very simple product, because what I noticed in talking to artists is that they spend a lot of time and sometimes also a lot of resources on getting a nice website where they can show their work.
Yeah. Because you did research at the Dutch Design Week as well, right? So you interviewed a lot of people or talked to people, and
so I have a group of designers that I do cool stuff with. I started it in my previous project. It's called the Circular Creator Club, and that's where I picked up on this problem that a lot of them have. And I was with this group at Dutch Design Week, and I talked to a bunch more creatives that just walked by, designers and artists that walked by, and I was trying to get them to talk about what do you use for your website right now? WordPress, Squarespace, ReadyMag. I heard all kinds of tools.
Yeah.
But for all of them, it was a pain in the ass, a lot of work to do. And especially for people who make physical works, it doesn't have to be like ReadyMag is actually a very cool tool. I don't know if you know it, but you can make really beautiful moving websites and stuff. But that makes it also more complex and like you can use templates and stuff. But I realized there's a niche within artists and creators that are actually not interested in that. They're making physical works, physical paintings, drawings, but sculptures, 3D objects. They don't need to have an interesting website. They just need to show their physical works.
Yeah.
That is what's interesting for them. And for the artists that are focused on that, I created a tool that it's easier to manage. It makes it easier to have your own portfolio website than to even have an Instagram account. It's extremely like removing anything unnecessary, going bare bones, and I created a super simple portfolio website builder that I've now tested out with two designers. One is a previous student of yours. The other is Theo Remy. He's a cool a circular designer that is in my club. And they are excited about it. I know from both of them that they want to use it. And I'm giving away a few accounts to these people who are very close in a close feedback loop with me for user feedback. But then the main question is, okay, they're happy about it and they're going to use it. It's a very simple, it's like they can just show pictures and order pictures and make folders that people can look in, and they can share these and make a little story about their work vision, right? But then the question is this also something people are already willing to pay for? Because I need to make sure that I create a new business model.
That was the real core of your idea, right? That the business model, the attention economy, is something you don't want to be
part of.
Yeah.
So that's exactly right. We were talking about leverage points earlier. I have for a long time struggled with the way the internet is right now and been unhappy with it. But in understanding it more and more, I found that the big leverage points are in the business model first, and then the algorithm, then the interface.
Yeah.
And what needs to change in the business model is we need to get rid of advertisement.
Yeah.
Now most platforms are relying on advertisements. That screws up the incentives. So you're basically the product. That's what they say, right?
Yeah.
Product.
Yeah.
And
If you're paying, you're the product.
Yes, but it's really true. Actually, Jack Dorsey said it himself in an interview he did yesterday. He's the founder of Twitter.
Yeah.
And he said, no, if I could go back and like, it's ridiculous. There was this notion that this was the way internet companies could make money and this was the only way.
Yeah.
But there's many more ways.
Yeah.
Now, I want to be only making money in very straightforward ways. I provide artists with a nice tool for them to share their work and they pay me for that tool. I will provide consumers with a nice tool for them to search the internet and they will pay me for that tool. In that way, there's no third-party middleman that I'm then selling the data to. No, your data is yours. Your art is yours.
Yeah.
And that's really the core. That's the core thing. So it was really important. My first step is kind of almost completed. I have now had some help from developers to put the dots on the why I make it a production-ready app.
Yeah.
But first, I made something that artists are happy with. Like, hey, this is
I mean, and you didn't study digital design. You just sort of
I just noticed that there was a big leverage point to make this world a bit nicer for everybody. But one of your students, I'm not going to name her because I'm not sure, I didn't verify if she wants this to be public. But she was working with Wix to create her website, and she put months of effort into it, and it was becoming not what she wanted, and very much too complicated. She's very excited. She's like, "Tell me when it's ready. Like, I have to use it." Theo really actually is even more direct influence because I really sat down with him the other day and I said, "Okay, would you use this? And if not, what needs to be changed?"
Yeah.
And there were some, like the general idea was some of the things was like, I miss this, and this is not necessary. Some parts are not necessary. Sometimes you miss. So he really helped me adjust course.
Yeah.
But that's step one. That's like, okay, I have some artists that are happy with the product.
Yeah.
Step two is figuring out, are there also artists in this world that are so happy they are willing to pay for it?
Yeah.
Or maybe I need to add more features to get to that point, which is fine. I'm ready to find, but the only way to really find it out is to put it on the market.
Yeah. How do you validate that hypothesis, right? That there's this, that people are willing. I mean, you can look at other payment systems and services, and people do pay for services. So there's that as evidence, I suppose. But
will they pay for this or
will they pay for this? I mean, I think in a lot of ways, design is basically, an argument. It's for that this is a viable. We often talk about that idea, the Venn diagram with a feasible, viable, desirable. You're showing it's feasible, it's possible to make it technologically, it's available. You're getting closer to, is it desirable? Yeah, you're checking that's being validated now, where people kind of giving positive results, so happy with it, the ease that it offers. Viable is the question probably more, right? Like, is it as a business model? Is it, are people going to, how much are they going to be willing to pay? Can you grow, or can you create a business, a sustainable business around that?
Can we create a place where we have so many users paying for it at such a margin that I have the room to innovate towards this bigger plan? Yeah, that's also a very important one for me. Because I see one of the outcomes being like, hey, this artist tool works, but it's gonna be like I'm fighting on the margins, and it's gonna be just that. Yeah. Which is, it would already be cool, but that's not what I'm going for. Yeah. I recently said it to some friends. I said, I'm actually richer than Elon Musk, 5% richer. They said, why? It's because, like the level of determination and vision that I have to change this internet, he doesn't have it and he doesn't have the money to buy it. So, but what I'm trying to say with it is, I'm going do something with it. So
that is amazingly powerful. I mean, that, and in a way it shows that just by directing yourself at a certain problem and with full commitment and motivation, even if you know nothing, I mean, it's okay because you'll learn as you go, right?
Definitely.
And you're young, so you're developing and changing through the challenges that it throws at you, and so that idea of just becoming the person that you want to be, engaging with the world in a way that feels valuable is great. I mean,
It's amazing, and I indeed also, just to credit Marlene again, this what I did really learn from reading about her work is that this new internet, it does need to have an open protocol. I want to I want to get into a position of power with it, but then open the door and say, okay, there's concerns I have there because you want to have authentic user-generated content. And if you have an open protocol and everybody from every app can send messages to Starboat, they should not be able to spam the network. It needs to be authentic content, and there needs to be innovation on seeing if it's bots or just there are people and stuff.
That's always, I mean, and that comes back to that issue of design is always political in the sense that there's always going to be affordances and constraints. I mean, if you open everything, then if there's no constraints, then you have a terrible product, right? Because it's not, so you've got to, you're making decisions. It's unavoidable.
So I think the moment we open up Starboat for third-party apps to also be able to send posts on the Starboat feeds, that comes after us really innovating on the algorithm and knowing how to filter out things that are relevant to you and that are what I wanted to line down. So yes, this is this artist platform that's really looking promising now, and I'm very excited to bring it to market in the coming weeks. Hopefully. Like there's some bottlenecks. I also want to give a shout out to Bram. That's a developer I visited yesterday, and he is going to help me voluntarily for now. So that's super cool. He's like he has the same motivation as me, and he explained to me how to work together with developers on GitHub. So it opened up new way of for me to see like, oh, this is how you do it. And if it's like share the repository, like just also to be frank about that. It's like I'm really a beginner developer. I still rely heavy on AI. I'm trying to build that off because you need more control on it. And I didn't even know how to collaborate on GitHub until yesterday, but he taught it to me. So that's super cool.
I mean, just by putting yourself out there and saying what you want to do, it's like having a vision. You can build from that, and try and get the people you need on board as you go,
But then what's really important is, to connect the dots. Like we are going to have this app where artists can run their portfolio websites. We're going to have the ability for them to opt in that their content will also be promoted on the future consumer-facing feed. It's not going to be in there from the last. It's just but if you want, I think you should also make a website to showcase and maybe even sell your beautiful comic. You should get a Starboat account. But then if you want, this is something we talked about behind the scenes. It depends on maybe it's more of a personal portfolio that you just want to share with your friends. Or with who you choose. That's fine. So if you want that, you can opt out. But if you want to have a career in make it to your main income, then you probably are willing to opt in for us to show to the public.
It's nice if you have some control over when you're sharing it with your sort of intimate circle of friends, and when you're ready to go public, or different levels.
Absolutely. I feel like it's very important for artists to have this control and just the ownership that is their art. So they choose where it's shown and where it's not shown.
It's kind of weird that it's not like that, right? So, we kind of accepted this state of affairs where you have no rights. You give up all your rights if you use the services.
No, but you like it's a bit like that because you can put your profile on private.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's similar.
But isn't all the content, on Facebook?
Yeah, probably they still like if you don't somewhere in a small button that they with dark patterns hit in this corner opt out, they are probably still gonna use that to train their AIs.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, but that's the stepping stone. So this tool is gathering art, so we can start with the art feed for consumers, and from there, my girlfriend and I are planning to move to Paris, and there's a very cool art scene there. We went to Rue de Rivoli with a squatters, cool ateliers. So I want to get into that community and help them share their art online more effectively.
Yeah.
And then what's really close next to it is independent clothing design.
Yeah.
And then you're already starting to move into apparel, and I can help people create really more online shops.
Yeah.
And from there, just build brick by brick. We are building that new internet.
Yeah.
And when we have a very strong position, and we are very strong in this security of making sure the content is authentic and filtering it for giving people those tools to filter it to their liking. Then we can open it up with open protocol.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I'm not sure if I understand completely how that works, but there's this thing that Marlene talked about was the Fediverse.
Yeah.
Is that some? Obviously, it's not really. Not many people know about it, right? So in a way, if you advertise your work there, who's going to find it? But imagine if that grows now, would you be interested in how do you bridge that space?
So what I'm very open for is to at the right point where I can confidently say I know how to filter out the bots from it. Open the Starboat feeds up to third-party apps like the Fediverse to send content and receive content. But you got to be sure that you do that in a very secure way, because you want them only to receive the content that people chose that's public.
Yeah.
You want them to be able to send authentic content because it's going to spam otherwise maybe the network, or it's going to lower the quality of content on Starboat, which you cannot have. But it needs to be the feed that's really providing you with relevant content for your life.
Yeah.
So you can imagine if you open it up and you don't do it in a secure way, you might have some foreign party trying to interfere with
your competitors just ruining it for you because they want you to.
So, but that is the aim. Yeah, I believe I want it to be the most used app in the world. That is the aim. But I want it to be the most used app in the world, not because we had a networking effect and locked people in this social network that. Now people want to migrate to other apps. You too. You're like,
I still use Facebook. I used to WhatsApp, and I'm like, I have a Signal account, and I have different people on that, but I both now, and ideally, I'd like to just get. Why don't we just all switch?
So that's what what I want is that if somebody wants to switch, like. Starboat is going to be all encompassing, so you'll also have chat in the end. It will be like the WeChat that you do everything on Starboat. It's going to be actually in the future maybe just the OS of hardware. But what I want is that if you for some reason don't like Starboat anymore, hopefully for a reason that there is a competitor who made something even cooler, then I want you just to be able to go there and still communicate with all your friends that are on Starboat. Just like with email, that you need to have the same provider. Because that is how I keep my company spirited. Then my team will be like, damn, they made something so cool. We need to make something even cooler. Let's go. Let's research marketing. And this is the open, free market that I believe in. And it's kind of lacking now.
Well, that's the main idea of the Fediverse, right? That you have these different, that everything is open and transferable. Now it's locked in.
Yeah, so that's something that I would like to be a part of. But what I would not like to be a part of is this idea in the Fediverse that it's okay to just be an alternative. Even if we carve out a small portion of what Instagram does with this pixel thing, that would already be nice. I'm not interested in that. No, we're gonna be the main thing, and we're gonna do that by being the most most appealing product that helps people so clearly that people just are like, let's use it. I want to use it.
Yeah. So it's got to be a kind of, it's like a social movement, right? So that's the idea of internet was a social movement, and in the start, and when social movements catch on like fire, they grow, so that's a nice vision.
Yeah, indeed, and it is a social movement, because that's why I started this podcast, is because I do know that I cannot do it alone. I'm very good in creating this vision and this plan, this big plan, and I have strong abilities in keeping that vision and staying determined there. But as a developer, I'm a total beginner.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love learning about it. I loved my session with Bram yesterday. But yeah, so I need people with different expertise that have the same, that want to move in the same direction with.
Yeah, I mean, how many people work for Google or tens of thousands of people, right? So, to create something at that scale, that kind of ambition, it's going to have a lot of people.
It's going to take just very talented people to get ahead. So it ties into having this open protocol, but then still being the most used.
Yeah.
Means you really need to have the best designers and the best algorithms that help people the most, so that they just choose you for quality.
Yeah, and I mean, for me personally, a motivation is also a little bit ideological in the sense that and that may be just a part of it. It might not be the main thing they advertise, but knowing that would be something that draws me to that ecosystem, because I do believe that open protocols and fair competition are values that I support. So that's also something you can use. But if you don't want to make it
that's like a very good point, but I'm very happy to hear that you are this way, and I feel it too, because I feel like our meetings, they go on for longer than you get paid for, because you are just also trying to help me, and you're on the Starboat team actually trying to help me get this in the right direction and get this on so that's super cool. But in advertising towards the user, like honestly, I think names like the Good Cloud, the Fairphone, they are very uninspiring to me.
Yeah.
Like, just don't say it, just show it.
Yeah.
And just make people feel it. I believe if you make a product that helps people, helps them with their mental health and standing in their own power, that they will feel it, and you don't need to say it. We can be transparent about it. We should be. Like, I think if you want to know, if you're interested, you should see, this is how they set it up.
Yeah.
This is what they do with user data.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be privacy boat or something, or a mental health social boat.
Yeah.
No, it's Starboat, because we believe that it needs to. It's actually a biblical thing for me as well. It's like maybe it's a bit contradicting myself, because on this podcast I talk about it a lot, but I try to find like-minded people that can work with me on it and also help me shape this path.
Yeah.
But what I believe it says in the Bible is, don't even tell your right hand what your left hand has donated.
Okay.
It's you don't need to advertise.
Just be modest, kind of thing.
Yeah, they say in the Bible, they say because if you are like tweeting out, I just donated a large sum of money to this great organization helping poor people.
Yeah, and I'm so.
Then you got your reward here on earth. If you want it from your Father in heaven, then you don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So
it's also just, it shows to me anyway, when if you see that kind of bragging, it's a lack of character somehow, isn't it? It's sort of, it's be a bit of modesty, respect people a lot more who keep that, do it without having to cash in on it straight away.
Yeah, and I think I get it, because like I don't want to discourage people who are working in companies with these titles, because often they are doing super cool stuff. Fairphone, Marleen talked about it.
Yeah.
It's really important work.
Yeah, but they're basically sorts of, that's the, if you would think of it in terms of pure marketing, their target group are people like me, perhaps, who do care about those things and will buy into it because of from a motivation perspective, not because it's easier, but because I believe in it and I want to support it.
You will get the conscious consumer that's willing to have a crappier phone, knowing that it's more honest.
Yeah, I'm definitely in that group, right? But it's not the main. Maybe I'm not making myself special, but it's just probably not a great way to change the whole world.
So there's two parts to it. First of all, it's maybe not you will stay, I think, in a niche of people who are okay with that.
Yeah.
And second of all, some people don't have that choice because they need that faster laptop, that faster.
Yeah.
They need it because they make they take care of their family with it.
Yeah.
Right. So you like it is really important to have your whole supply chain. To me, it's super important to have your whole supply chain more ethical and check out what's going on in those mines and stuff, and like make sure that we get rid of this neo colonial system and change it to something fair for everyone. That is very important to me. But if it makes your like if you do that and then make a weaker product and that's your only thing why people would buy it, I don't believe it would scale. I don't believe it.
But it doesn't have to be either or. I suppose that the tension is that you can, if you're doing things unethically, you can make them cheaper. So, we see these huge factories in Bangladesh with children and working, that they make cheap clothes. People want cheap, don't want to spend $200 on a pair of jeans. So they'll buy the one for $15, or $50. And, that's a tricky one, I think, because
super tricky. But I do like what you said. It doesn't have to be either or. I believe there's an optimum. I believe that, and with the internet itself, I now really clearly see a way that it doesn't have to be either or. You can because if you have an algorithm that works for people, it will, and the people will really feel that.
Yeah,
that's ethically better, and it will also attract more people. So you win. On both sides. So then it's just really giving you a competitive advantage as well.
Yeah.
In hardware, I have not dove into it as deeply and say I'm now ready to make the hardware stack honest.
Yeah.
But I do believe there's a way that that it doesn't have to be either.
Also, because I think there's a real felt I think of all the students. I know there's a real felt sort of frustration or sort of sickly feeling about the unhealthiness of their own, like you say in your introduction to your thesis as well, your own use of internet. It's addictive and it's unhealthy, and there's this discomfort with that. So, and if you're looking at it from a design perspective, that's an opportunity, right? The discomfort is an opportunity. You can create something where that discomfort isn't there, where it feels good and healthy and you're feeling empowered and all those sort of things. And those are real positive values and that you bring into your product.
And this is directly informing my design decisions. Like, hey, we don't even need to measure user watch time because that's not a thing that it's not a thing that shows that it's really relevant to your life. It's only a thing that shows that it kept you engaged. And we are caring about relevancy to your life. So we don't need to measure that one. And more of these decisions are directly informed by. This is something that I got from podcast episode 1 with Alessandro. He's and starting entrepreneur himself and starting to see his first successes. So it's really inspiring to talk to him too. But he said, like, the internet is sometimes in more ways slower than it has to be, and there's no incentive to change it because if you buy your plane ticket, you could do it with one click. We have the technology to do it, but then there's no room to upsell. So one of the Starboat rules will be, we have the human end user, the individual user, they grab their phone with an objective. the job for Starboat will be find that objective as soon as possible and then execute on it. So instead of say, they want to buy bread, let's also try to buy them, sell them the most expensive one, and sell chocolate paste. And no, you keep it like, they came to buy a bread. Boom, here's your bread. You want, so
that fits to a lot of design sort of, and what the behavioral economics sort of theory that you ease, making things easy. Is and it's a weird thing actually, because it's so deeply ingrained in internet, logic. But there's this thing now that's creating drag, making things not easier. And that's because of the business model.
It makes it easier for advertisers, which are now the real clients. And we are going to just completely destroy that model. Coming back to where you said attention economy. We are going to destroy the attention economy. It's going to be a trust economy, and you're going to choose your platform because you trust that platform to execute your objective. I'm choosing Starboat because I trust it to execute my objective. So we will gather for you. So that's ideally it will stay with technologies like local first. It will stay on a database on your phone locally. Because we don't plan to sell, but your personal data, what we're measuring is what is your spending budget. Let's stay within that then, because other products are not relevant to you. Do you travel a lot, or are you always in the same city? Let's then just show events in your city, right? You bring all the content that is relevant to your circle of influence that you can execute upon, that you can participate in. Events that you can participate in.
Well, I think if you're in a competitive market, right? So you have two options. You have the one that you're offering and all the competitors, and the one, that you're offering, you click on, I need some bread, and okay, and I've got the bread, 3 clicks. And the other one, you open it and you go, so, okay, I've got 15 kinds of, I've got the bread, but now do I want some other stuff? I don't know. And, and then some pop-ups, and it's a kind of a whole, I think, maybe the sell is really that, the 3-click thing is going to be really nice.
That's like so in this internet vision, that's what I often say is you have all kinds of search machines like Google, Bing, but we're going to be a find machine. Because you don't need to search through the ads and pop-ups. We are searching for you. You do the finding. So that is a big part of this new internet promise, and it's just gonna help you focus on what you want to do in a day. What you want to. But if that's something that would be within the bounds of law, for me personally, morally objective, like eating a lot of potato chips and sitting on the couch and watching girls.
An option
you can still choose that path, but you will be in full control of it. So it's like the Garden of Eden. There was a tree with forbidden fruits. It was not like that was all arrows pointed to it, but you do have the choice yourself. You can make that choice.
So there's a sort of thing of freedom. It sounds.
So we've been
talking for a while.
Let's see what time is it. We've been talking for 2 hours.
Oh my God!
I think it's time to wrap up. I think maybe there's some message that you still want to share that I didn't address, and this will be a good time to get into.
No, I don't. I think you covered a lot, really, haven't we? I wrote in the bit. I was writing all these notes, and we started with, what's the core message, I think, or what's the core thing, and in the middle is the future is emergent, and we can influence how it emerges. So that was basically the message, probably, that I'd like to leave with as a final thought.
I think it's a beautiful message. So that's your advice to all students and people who are watching. The future is emergent, and we can influence how it emerges. Seb, thank you so much for all your time and your guidance.